All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Kelly Ickes with Measured Progress. We are going to go ahead and get started. We have a full morning of information to share with you. As is shown on screen, if you have any issues connecting audio-wise, if you can see the slides, but the audio issues, or you have questions, please make sure to use the chat box, and you can chat Tina. She is the host of this meeting, and she will be able to respond to you throughout the presentation. So, welcome to today's District of Columbia Test Administration Training for Test Administrators. Today's training is scheduled to last 2.5 hours, and I do anticipate using that full amount of time. Okay. At this time, I would like everybody to be aware that today's training will be recorded in WebEx. And again, as I had indicated earlier, please use the chat feature in WebEx to ask your questions as they arise. We will pause between sections as time allows to ensure that we are able to answer your questions. On the webinar today from Measured Progress, we have a team of folks, including Tina, Program Manager in our Client Services Special Education Department. I am Kelly Ickes. I am the Director of Client Services in the Special Education Department. And then we also have Chris Clough, and he's the Program Manager in the Client Services Special Education Department. Sarah McCain had planned on being on the presentation today, but unfortunately was unable to attend. Next, we have our MSAA State Coordinators page. The MSAA State Coordinators page contains state contact information and links. And with us today on the presentation is Michael Craig. Michael Craig is the State MSAA Coordinator for the District of Columbia. You will see the website address and also Michael Craig's contact information on the slide in front of you. In addition, the state-specific policy page has been updated, and the District of Columbia's state-specific policy document can be located via the hyperlink under the District of Columbia. Okay, so here's the agenda for today. We will be covering a lot of material, and there'll be plenty of time for questions. We'll provide you an overview of the MSAA program as a whole, source documents, which will become your absolute go-to resources. We will talk about training requirements, technology requirements, specific information related to supports and features. The basic overview section of the presentation today, we will also dive into how to access the MSAA system. Okay. Information specific to testing integrity, appropriate and inappropriate testing practices. We also go over the online system, what you need to do before, during, and after testing. And as time allows, we will plan for a live demonstration of the online system. We are hoping that we will be able to get to that section of the presentation today. However, please note that all of the slides that we will be going through, we will actually walk you through each of the online system pieces with good visual aids that you will have available to you, so you have an idea of how to navigate through the system, even if we don't have an opportunity to the live demonstration. So you won't miss anything if we don't have an ability to cover it today. Okay. So in order to make this administration a positive experience for our students, we have built in a lot of support for test administrators, and we'll cover that information today. Okay. As I said, we've got a lot to get through, but we'll take it slowly, and as questions arise, please use that chat box. Okay. Let's get going into the important documents information. So these resources that we're going to talk about now really should be your go-to. All information in this PowerPoint can be found in either the MSAA Test Administration Manual, or TAM, okay, the Test Administrator Online Assessment User Guide, or the Test Coordinator User Guide. These documents will be our guides today. And anytime you see the manual symbol in the upper right-hand corner of the slide, you will find the information on the corresponding page of the identified manual. The green manual indicates the information is on the page noted in the TAM, or its administration manual. Please note, from this point forward in our presentation, the test administration manual will be referred to as the TAM. Manuals indicate that the information is either on the TA user guide or the TD user guide for the MSAA online system. Let's take a closer look now for what's new in 2018 for the MSAA. Measure Progress and MSAA have been working together this past year to incorporate changes brought about by suggestions from teachers and lessons learned. The changes have been made to really ease the administration process, and we are really excited to share the ongoing work. So with regard to updates this year, there have been some improvements in the stage adaptive design. There are also specific considerations related to the administration of the writing prompt based on lessons learned that we heard from the field. We've provided a student response check flowchart, and we'll get into a lot of detail related to that, so you all have a very clear picture of the flow and the steps related to conducting that student response check. In addition, there were new additions added to the specific to the administration of the MSAA. The return of the foundational reading items at grades 3 and 4. We've all completed a process called the early form assignment. Been done already within the system and is kind of a back-end process that we'll talk a little bit about. Added some DPA directions for test administration and specific printing within the platform itself. There are also 4 best practice videos, and we did a resource considered the MSAA in terms of an observation checklist. So we'll discuss each of these in more detail as we get along in our presentation. So with regard to platform changes, right, some of the platform changes that have been conducted include alter the tab, which did previously indicate My Students. It is now just Students. It's a little bit of extra room on the top tab for us. On the student page, you can now sort by test status and also launch a test. And then after you've done a sort or you filter on the student's page, when you return to that student's page, your sort will remain. There have been the addition of Excel exports that are now available for students and test status summary. With regard to the actual item presentation, the test launched, we've done work to reduce the size of the navigation bar, which will result in having more room for the answer options to be presented and result in a reduced amount of scrolling. The directions for test administration, DTAs, and paper tests are now broken out by session and can be downloaded that way. In addition, when downloading the paper test version, there is now a checkbox to confirm that the paper test is an approved accommodation for the student. So early form assignment is the process that we went through in order to specifically assign the forms to the student early on in the process. Test forms are assigned to students at the lowest organizational level. So basically for the Washington, D.C. level, it is assigned at the school level. For those students that may possibly use Braille in their daily instructional practices, this would be for students with visual impairments. At grades 3 and 4, those foundational reading items are identified early by the MSAA state coordinator. And in that instance, those specific items would be brailled for a student and would be provided to the districts and schools for those students. Let's talk about some key dates specific to 2018. As you can see, we've already taken care of a few of the dates that are currently displayed on the screen for you now. One of the most important dates that we want to make sure that you are aware of is the date of March 5th. The March 5th date, we had the online training modules go live, as well as the best practice videos go live. Get into information related to what is contained within those training modules and what is required of test administrators related to viewing those training modules. And we'll also talk a little bit about those best practice videos. So they are live in the system at this point and are definitely accessible to users. If you've not gained access to users at this point, to the online platform at this point, users will be provided access within the system on February 26th and is an ongoing process. Okay. So test coordinators will enter in the test administrators into the online platform, and test administrators will gain access to the platform after they've been added by their test coordinators. So the paper version of the MSAA test is considered an accommodation. All paper tests must be approved as an accommodation for the students prior to be able to download the piece from the system. With that, test administrators will be asked to confirm that the paper test is an approved accommodation for students prior to being able to download those PDFs. Administrators would be able to find those PDFs under Actions menu found on the student's page. When the option to open test in PDF is selected, there will be a prompt that indicates, I confirm that the paper test is an approved accommodation for the student. Once this approval is confirmed, the download paper test box becomes available. Okay. A little bit about the session printing aspect. So directions for test administration, or DTAs, and the paper tests are printed by session. Then you may print session 2A, 2B, or 2C without having to isolate them within the whole PDF, which is what we had previously. So this has been a very exciting improvement that we've been able to offer for this 2008 administration. Important to note that Session 1 of the DA contains all front matter and includes cutouts, manipulatives, templates, and rough sheets for Session 1 and Session 2. Okay. Those cutouts and reference sheets are printed one per student because they're considered a consumable product, if you will. A student would use them for their specific test, and that we up at that point. They're not something that really can be reused among students. The PDF, specific pages can be printed individually. Use a session. Once one is submitted, the team will be informed of which version of Session 2 the student was routed to, and specific to the stage adaptive test design. The test administrator will then use the session printing modal to select the assigned version of Session 2. In 2018, we've added 4 short videos outlining administration best practices. The videos are specific to information regarding various parts of the MSAA that are important for test administrators to really be aware of when administering the assessment with their students. Video 1 demonstrates the online administration of an item, including how to use the Zoom and full screen capabilities, as well as utilization of a hybrid administration model, so some computer, some paper, as also to the horizontal presentation of answer options, if that is something that students utilize and need in order to best respond. Video 2 demonstrates how to administer student response check and the early stopping rule while focusing on communication versus selecting the correct answer. There's information about using aid devices such as Cheap Talk or a single switch. Videos 3 and 4 demonstrate how to administer the writing prompt using the directions for test administration related to inserting annotations, and how to upload, view, and submit the evidence for either the Level 2 or Level 3 writing prompt. The video is around 10 minutes in length and be viewed as many times as necessary. The videos are completely an optional resource, however, highly recommended for test administrators and test coordinators. To access the videos, you go to the Resources section of the MSAA Online Assessment homepage. As part of the ongoing test security and validity, test coordinators are asked to monitor administration for a portion of students. Observation documentation will be retained by the district. coordinators will report any incidents involving alleged or suspected violations that fall under the category of a serious irregularity to the assessment coordinator in accordance with state guidelines. We've provided an observation checklist for test coordinators to use. This observation checklist is really meant to ensure the fidelity of the administration. Directions for test administrators must be used, and this is something that is and specifically outlined in the observation checklist. In addition, there's information about the use of accommodations and some student-specific information related to what barriers may have caused a student from responding to the items. It's important to remember that the MSAA is standardized and secure administration, and we do ensure that secure administration protocol is being followed, as well as there's secure storage of any testing materials. There are a small percentage of items that will be displayed in horizontal format for both ELA and mathematics MSAA items for this year. These items are identified in DTA, Directions for Test Administrator, at item-specific level. When this occurs at the item level, there will be a little icon that will be shown in the DTA until display. Right? When using an iPad, the student or the test administrator will need to rotate the iPad to a horizontal or landscape presentation in order to view the answer options in that horizontal display. As mentioned earlier, these state-specific policy documents have been updated for 2018. In addition to the TAM, the Online Assessment User Guide, and Directions for Test Administration, this document is your go-to document for DC-specific policy information. The document includes information regarding test administrator requirements related to paper version of the test, training for test administrators, test security, information specific to school, test coordinator, facilities, training students or creating classes, and protocol related to incident reporting, so test security violations, not opening, closed tests, etc. There are some important dates specific to the administration window that we look at this point in time. So the MSAA administration window opened on March 19th at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Day to submit requests for any grade reassignments or other test reassignments or to open a closed test is May 1st, 2018. End of test survey must be completed by May 4th, 2018. And we'll get into a little bit more information related to what that end of test survey is. Finally, the MSAA test administration window closes on May 4th, 2018. Information in the Test Administration Manual, or TAM, specific to ordering, shipping, and returning materials. Maryland specific, so should you have any questions about that, it's not something that would be applicable for DC, so it's not something that you would need to worry about related to important dates to make sure that you are aware of. point, I'd like to see if there are any specific questions that we need to look at, and if there is anything that we can answer at this time. So, looking at the chat box, I think we are set to dive into the MSAA overview. As things come up, you have something, we'll be monitoring the chat box and we'll get at specific points in time. Okay, very good. So the purpose of MSAA is fold. It's to ensure that all students are able to participate in assessment that is under of what they know and can do in relation to the grade level state content standards. It ensures students with significant cognitive disabilities achieve increasingly higher academic outcomes and leave high school prepared for post-secondary options. And lastly, it ensures that the requirements of the Every Student Succeeds Act and the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act are being adhered to. These require the participation of all students in assessments designed to measure a student's knowledge and ability on grade level content standards. The student participation criteria has been in place for a few years now, and this has not changed. Students who are participating in the MSAA have been determined eligible by their IEP team to participate. The participation criteria is outlined in the TAM in the should take the MSAA section of the TAM on page 7. Test administrators have specific responsibilities that must be completed before, during, and after testing. One of the important responsibilities that TAs must perform before testing is to complete the student profile for each student to be tested. The student profile includes tabs for demographic, learner characteristic inventory, accomplishments, and the student response check information. The administrator's key responsibilities during test administration are to follow the directions for test administration, or DTA. These be followed when administering the test. Administrators must also provide accommodations as indicated in the student's IEP, in the TAM, and test administrators also must maintain test security at all times. After testing, test administrators are required to submit the student's tests, report test irregularities, complete the accommodations after test tab, each student, complete one end test survey. Any test materials that were printed from the system must be securely shredded. This includes any versions of the tests for test administrator, any student work, the test. There is a test administration checklist that is available to assist you in performing and completing all of the responsibilities of your role. Of all of the test administrator responsibilities before, during, and after test administration is necessary necessary for successful MSAA test administration. There are specific test administrator training requirements and must be completed before accessing any student-specific information within the platform. So this training today will provide you with an overview, really considered a foundation, then allow you to get to the online platform, to be familiar with it, comfortable with it, and to know what it is that you need to do in order to gain access to the student-specific information. There are test administration training modules that really are made to ensure that you are ready to administer the assessment with confidence. As the test administrator, you must complete all of the test administration training modules. These customized modules, along with this presentation today, will in total help you prepare for test administration. However, really spending actual time with the documents that we're going to talk through today is very, very important. As I noted earlier and indicated, the modules were available beginning on March 5th. And are modules specific to test administrator responsibilities. Also, modules that are specific to test coordinators. For test administrators, the modules refer to information found specifically in the TAM, information related to the directions for test administration, and information related to the MSAA system user guide for test administrators. In order to gain access to student information and directions for test administration, all test administrators must complete the final quiz with an 80% accuracy score. Once the test administrator completes all of the training modules, the final quiz button will become active and the test administrator can go ahead and the final quiz. Once it is done with that 80% accuracy, the system will lock your access to student-specific information. Please don't worry if you do not pass the final quiz on the first try. You have multiple opportunities to try it. The final quiz really does cover the information that is outlined in each of those modules, so very straightforward. Test administrators, there are 6 training modules. Feedback from teachers over the past couple of years, improvements have been made to the modules, and intent is that they will remain short and will include specific references to the TAM and user guide. As an administrator, you should be able to follow along in your test administration manual, your TAM, and your user guide as you're going through the modules. Test coordinators also have specific responsibilities that must be fulfilled during, before, and after testing. There is a checklist available to test coordinators that outlines these specific responsibilities. For the test, there's information about completing test security and confidentiality forms. Test coordinators must complete the registration. There are coordinator modules that we will show you in a minute, and information specific to the technology requirements. These must be completed before the end of the MSAA in order to ensure successful completion. During the administration of the assessment, test coordinators have responsibilities related to monitoring administration, maintaining security, reporting any inappropriate test practice or irregularities, and ensuring that tests are submitted at the end of the test window. After testing, test coordinators have responsibilities that are outlined in the test administration manual specific to reporting any inappropriate test practices, submitting tests, so securely shredding and system printed materials and DTAs. Again, as I indicated earlier, for materials that are printed, those must be securely shredded. Maryland is the only one that actually has materials that are shipped that must be returned. Not something that DC needs to focus on. The test coordinator have responsibility requirements as well. So IC, they must complete the MSAA test administration training modules. The modules, along with this presentation, will help a coordinator prepare for any oversight tasks related to administration and will be able to allow for providing support to test administrators. Coordinators do not have to complete the end of test quiz. However, it's very important to become familiar with the information contained within the test administrator modules so that it's provided to test administrators as best as possible. The modules are available within the online platform and are specific to the responsibilities of the test coordinator. Coordinators, they focus on information in the TAM. They outline some general information related to directions for test administration, those DTAs that test administrators must use. There's information specific to the MSAA system user guide for test administrators and coordinators. As I indicated earlier, test coordinators do not need to complete a final quiz. There are 6 modules that a test coordinator must complete. To the test administrator training modules, these modules are meant to be succinct and outline specific information related to topics found in the TAM and user guides. Similar to the test administrator modules, the modules can be watched as many times as is necessary and be available throughout the administration window. So if there's a question that arises along the way, coordinators and test administrators can refer back to those modules. As mentioned earlier, page 6 of the TAM explains the purpose of each required document for test administration in great detail. It outlines the intended user of each of these documents. TAM provides policies and procedures for TAs and TCs to prepare for the administration of the test. You can see the user outlined for this one is TAs and TCs. Directions for test administration provide direction and script for each item of the test. All items for the test included in the DTA. Not all items will be registered to each student, and specific because of the stage adaptive model. So a student may be assigned version A. Entire DTA will also have items specific to versions 2B and 2C. students only need to take version 2A if that's what's been assigned to them. The days also include details about manipulatives required in order to administer each test item, such as leaders and counters. Sheets that are included, which contain important graphics that a student would need to reference. Mathematics constructed response items in grades 3, 4, 5, 8, and 11, there are scoring rubrics that are provided in the directions for test administration. The details contain the script for each writing prompt, as any mentor text when applicable. They also contain the graphic organizer and student response templates, as well as stimulus materials for the writing prompt specific to that ELA DTA. In addition, the DTA provides specific directions to administer the Braille version of ELA foundational items in grade 3 and 4. Note, the DTA is a secure document and available only when TAs complete the MSAA online training modules and pass the final quiz. One is the test administrator. We talked earlier online use for administrators. I do need to ask, can you still hear me? Okay. Thanks for letting me know. We'll continue. I'm sorry, I think we had a blur power here for 1 minute. We will continue on. I said the user guide for test administrators is specific to information for the DAs. It's technical information and troubleshooting tips, as well as step-by-step instructions to navigate the MSAA online system. The for test coordinators provide information specific to technical information and troubleshooting tips for test coordinators. Provide step-by-step instruction to navigate the MSAA online system, such as how to check that all test administrators have completed their training, how to ensure that all students are properly registered, and to ensure that all students have the correct grade levels within the online system. It contains information on how to ensure that tests have been submitted, and close a student test when that is necessary. Other specifics related to the MSAA. This information is not new, but if you are a new test administrator, the information to make sure that you are referencing within the TAM. The MSAA assess 2 content areas. These are English Language Arts and Mathematics. English Language Arts, or ELA, comprises of reading and writing. Is aligned to state content standards and the MSAA core content connectors. The test is provided in an online platform and is administered by a trained test administrator who provides a one-to-one test administration. All items, passages, and response options, and test administration materials are secure. Students eligible for the alternate assessment in grades 3 through 8 and grade 11 will participate in both ELA and mathematics. It's important to note that testing time will vary for each student as testing can be resumed based on any student's needs. Assessment features that also can be utilized within the online platform and accommodations can be provided as outlined in the student's individualized education program, IEP, and must be consistent with MSAA policies. Test is administered in a one-to-one setting by a trained test administrator. Assessment is available in two formats, a computer-based format or a paper-based format. Let's take a closer look at to customize the formats based on what is appropriate for each student. A computer, laptop, or tablet administration is available. And this is for students who are fairly independent when using a computer or tablet. These students can manipulate a mouse or a keyboard with some independence. Administration is considered the standard administration for this test. Please note, students do not have to navigate through the assessment itself from item, but they need to be able to use the computer to select a response. The paper version administration is for students who cannot use a computer or a tablet. This includes students who use eye gaze boards or who have significant motor challenges, prevent them from being able to use a keyboard or written implement.
Hi, this is Chris. It looks like we might have just run into an audio glitch, possibly better. Hold for just one moment while we attempt to get it fixed. Again, those noticed the quietness. Our weather is playing a little bit of havoc with our weather. So she was knocked off from audio connection, and she is reconnecting now. So we'll resume in just a moment.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am back. I apologize for that glitch that we had. Let's pick up where we left off, specific to the type of administration that we have available. Indicated previously, the computer, laptop, or tablet administration is considered the standard administration for the MSAA. The paper version administration is available for students who cannot use a computer or tablet. It includes students who use eye gaze boards or who have significant motor challenges that prevent them from being able to use a mouse, keyboard, or a writing implement. This accommodation may also be helpful for students who are easily distracted by technology. For example, a student who may focus more on clicking the answer options rather than paying attention to the item itself. Students benefiting from this type of administration would also need the paper version and scribe accommodation documented in their EP. Lastly, there is a hybrid administration available. This would be some computer and some paper, and is for students who have some ability to use a mouse or have limited keyboarding skills. And the hybrid administration is appropriate for a student who may be able to use a mouse to select their answer option, but cannot type or really needs significant assistance in order to type into the online platform for their writing prompt. Students receiving this type of administration, accessibility features, and test support from both the computer administration and paper version admin lists may be necessary in order to preserve a student's independence and promote their access to the test. Please remember, regardless of the administration mode of participation, student responses must be entered and submitted via the online system first and one prior to the assignment for session 2 being determined by the online platform. In benefiting from that paper or hybrid administration would also need to have the paper version and scribe accommodation documented in their IEP. Regardless of the format, testing time will vary for each student. The system can be paused and resumed based on an individual student's needs, as long as it is within the administration window. Paused for as little as a few minutes to a couple of days. Also, there are assessment features that can be utilized within the online platform, and accommodations can be provided as outlined in the student's IEP and consistent with MSAA policies. MSAA is stage adaptive and provides students with a test experience that aligns the second session of the assessment based on how a student responds to items in the first session. The version in the second session varies by difficulty or complexity level. As I indicated earlier, each student will only take the session 2 version, either A, B, or C, that is assigned to him or her. Go look at what this looks like for MSAA. For ELA, all students are assessed in Session 1 or Stage 1. Session 1 contains items from a broad range of tiers. Upon completion, the student is directed to Stage 2 to version A, B, or C. Version A contains items at the lowest level range of difficulty or complexity. The writing prompt associated with this level and utilizes sentence starters for a student to complete their work. Version B contains items at a mid-level range of difficulty or complexity. There is a writing prompt associated with this level and utilizes graphic organizers and a template for completion of the student work. Version C contains items at a higher level range of difficulty or complexity. And there is a writing prompt associated with this level, which utilizes graphic organizers and a template for the student to complete their work. We'll note that ELA is now a 2-session test, just like math. The writing prompt has been incorporated into Session 2 at the end of each session. Mathematics assessment will be presented in the same way. The student will respond to items within Session 1, based on student performance. There will be assigned to a version in Session 2. Those versions have varying levels of difficulty or complexity. A version A, a version B, and version C in Session 2. There are 3 types of items that are included in the ELA and mathematics sessions of the test. There are selected response items, and these appear in both ELA and mathematics sessions of the test. All directions and materials needed for the select response items are detailed in the directions for test administration. There are constructed response items in mathematics. Items ask the student to develop an answer instead of selecting an answer from present answer options. Each item is presented to the student in a standardized scripted sequence of steps, culminating in the administrator scoring the student's performance using the mathematics scoring rubrics and entering the student response into the platform. Actions and materials needed for administering these items are included in Directions for Test Administration, or DTA. The writing prompt for ELA is operational this year and requires a student to produce a permanent product in response to a prompt. Writing prompt DTA contains the following: a sized scripted sequence of steps for the test administrator to follow: a graphic organizer for the student to notes and plan their essay. So a template that a student would write their essay in before it is typed on the computer or uploaded into the system. There's also mentor text to present to the student as an example of a finished product. These are available at grades 3, 4, 5, and 11. That brings us to the end of the overview section. The slides will walk us through how to access and use the MSAA system. When new users are added to the system, you will receive a welcome email from the MSAA Service Center at measuredprogress.org. The email contains information about the MSAA system and your account. Each is considered new each year, so you'll receive this e-message even if you were in the platform last year. And for a test administrator, your test coordinator will enter you in the system, and once you are entered in, you receive the email message. At the bottom of the email, there is a temporary link that was used to access your account for the first time. When you click on that link, it will take you to this that confirms that you've been logged in for the first time. This link can only be used once. It will require you to set a new password. On that, you will click Save. This page will confirm that you've chosen a new password. And on this page, you can navigate back to the home page by clicking on the dashboard button on the top left. One important note: you may want to add MSAA Service Center at measuredprogress.org to your district's Filter Safe list. Once you have clicked on the MSAA assessment.org URL, a login page will appear. Enter your email address and password and click Login. Each time you log in after this, you use the link shown here and the password that you chose during your initial login. As an important note, test administrators will want to click to save and bookmark this page. Once logged in, the system opens the dashboard page as your home page. You can navigate within the system using the menu options in the top navigation bar. Access the following menu options from the navigation bar. Dashboard will return you to the home page or dashboard. Test status summary, which provides an aggregated snapshot of all the tests your students are assigned to and the number of students assigned to each test and the status of the test. Students tab allows you to access your students and test materials for the details. It enables you to start the student's test on the computer. You can also access sample items to practice online navigation or students' assistive technology devices before launching actually into the test. You have the ability to click on the tab for test administration training, and this will take you directly to the training modules. Test status summary provides a summary of each student's tests to check and monitor testing progress during test administration. You may only access tests that are assigned to the students you are testing. Only test coordinators should see the test summary information for all students in a school. Test administrators may only access their own classroom or classrooms that they're connected to. Here is how you get there. Click on the test summary navigation panel at the top of the page, and this will take you to the test status summary view. Clicking on the students page will display a list of students that are associated with you as the test administrator. See the student's ID, which is system-generated ID. There's also the student ID state ID, what is provided to us, the MSAA test coordinator for all students for EC. There is the organization information, as student information, which includes such things as the first name and last name of the student and the student's demographic grade. Under test name, you'll see the tests that are assigned. You'll also see the test status, and the status is the same as that is displayed on the test status summary. So there are a couple of different wordings that will be displayed, and these are not started, in progress with, paused by, submitted by, or closed by. Next is the test administrator information, and this is the name of the test administrator who put the test into the specific status, such as paused by or in progress with. Lastly, there is the actions column. The actions column is where start test, resume test, print test, the print of the directions for test administration can be found, and also where a test administrator can go to the student profile. You want to use the students page to access the student profile information. And that profile information, again, is the demographics, the learning characteristic inventory, the accommodations information, and the student check information. In addition, this is where you would access the test materials and start and resume student tests. Again, you will only see students that are linked to your specific organization. So if you at the district organization level, you click to see students that you will see for all of your district schools. At the district organization level, you can drill down to is assigned as the school TA, go to the specific school. Next is where you can find sample items. With the online platform, there are two places where you can locate this. We're in the platform. There is the sample items tab. Also within the resources down on the bottom of the online platform. All users have access to the same set of sample items. There are sub-items for mathematics and ELA representing each grade band. It's really a great opportunity for both you and your students to become familiar with the online administration features. You can access those sample items at any time. To view the sample items, you would just click on the action actions and select the Start Test. That will provide you with the items as they display in the online platform. And then if you wanted to print the sample items, you can also do that by clicking on that and then also selecting the download paper or PDF. There are DTAs for the sample items as well. To access the DTAs for the sample items, you click on the link for Download Practice Items DTA that are found at the top of the page. This is an example of a sample item as it will appear online. Note, sample item responses are not saved, so you can go back to it at any time and practice with these to be familiar with how the items are printing within the platform, and also to try out any AT devices that you may use. As you can see, these pages are simply formatted without too much distraction on a page. There is a Previous and Next button that is easily found. To pause, you would click on the Save and Exit button, and will give you the option to pause and then come back later. To access the list of assessment features, you click on the Same Item button there with the little gear, and that will bring up the assessment features. Okay. The toolbar at the bottom of each test page provides lots of information that are important for you to be aware of. It includes the student name, the name of the test and current questions that have completed out of the total number of questions. So for instance, this one showing item 1 of 1. So the Previous button, which moves back one screen, and the Next button would allow you to move forward one screen. Also read again, and for this, many items have multiple screens to navigate through. In ELA, for instance, if the student wants to read the item again, you can click on the Read Again button. This will return the display to the first screen of the item. There is an Upload Evidence. This uploads images of student work for the writing prompt. This item, or this particular button rather, because of when you are in the writing prompt section, will not be there. You have the option to bookmark an item, which allows you to go back and review it at a later time. Items button provides a summary of the questions that have or have not been answered. The full screen one is a very important button for you as test administrators to be aware of. We highly encourage you, for students who are in the items, to have you click on the full screen mode to view the item. It allows for the best presentation of the item, and also takes away some of the ability for minimizing or closing out the test inadvertently. Screen is a very important button for you to make sure that you're utilizing when administering the test with the student. In addition, there are many, many places where you can go for help and how to access that information. When you're actually in the test itself, that help button will provide you information on contacting the MSAA Service Center. It provides the phone number. Should you have any technical difficulties and or need assistance, you have it right there available to you so that you can call when you are in need of that. Exiting. This is another critical important button. This is where you save the test and exit out of the test. Okay. The test may be resumed later, and it will pick up where you've left off. You have to make sure that when you're ready to, say, take a break or you're done testing for the day or something like that, you are saving and exiting out of the test at that time. And lastly, the assessment features menu, so those accessibility features are accessed by clicking on the little gearbox in the bottom left-hand corner of the navigation bar or the toolbar. So let's look at the sample item a little bit more. We showed you a math sample item previously, so this is a EA sample item. Okay. See here is this is a continuation of a passage for the SIC passage for grade 4. On the slide, you can see that there are 2 pages that are displayed side by side, and this is really just for our slide presentation display purposes. In actuality, at the end of the passage is the this or next button, and you click on that, and it would then bring up the item page for the student to respond to. For each passage, there is a remember statement that is, or for each passage rather, there is a question it's presented that asks the student if he or she would like the passage reread before the question is asked. And this is always an option that students can take advantage of, to have the passage or a passage part reread to them before they get to the item page. For some items, there is a remember statement that really includes a reminder and sometimes a definition related to the particular item and what it is being asked for. In this instance, it's reminding the student about the theme. The question that is presented to the student here for the sample item is, what is the theme of this story? And then there are 3 response options for a student to choose from. One of these has a visual support associated with them. Depending on the level of item, you will have visual supports and text. Sometimes just be a visual support provided. In other instances, depending on the item and what's being asked for, it may just be a text without the visual support. So great variability and supports that are provided to the student depending on the item that is being presented to them at that time. Okay. We want to note that the only time a question will appear at the very end of an entire passage is really when it's focusing on the entire passage itself, the main idea, the story, your theme, for instance. But generally, there are passage parts that are provided, and then the student is asked a question right after that passage part is provided. The sample items are very, very important to access prior to testing so that you and the student can become familiar with them. Another example of a passage, and this is a sample item from ELA grade 8. So in this one, there's going to be some introductory text, which really orients the student to the passage and provides them a little bit of information about the question that the student is going to answer at the end. about what it is that they should be cueing into as the passage is being read. Passage is read to the student aloud by the test administrator or using the computer itself. The platform has the option for read aloud. And then at the end of the passage, just like we saw in the grade 4 sample, there is the question about would the student like the passage you read before the question is asked. For this item, there is a remember statement included and lines the context around the question itself. And again, this one is about the using an argument and based on facts to make the reader believe in something. So once you've gone through that, then the question itself is what the student is responding to. So what argument did the author make about Mark Twain? We have our 3 response options that are presented with visual support. For certain items, you will have 2 response options available for that particular item, or 3 response options, and that really just depends on the complexity level of the item itself. Again, as I noted in the previous lay sample, the passages and the item itself together on a side-by-side display, and this is just for presentation purposes. Generally for ELA, to go through the items and passages, you click on the previous or next buttons on the bottom tool navigation. Maps is presented in a similar format. So the item begins with modeling and telling the student what the item is about for this one. And then following that model, there is the actual item itself, the item prompt, with the response options. You can see in this one that this particular item only has 2 response options that are available. Okay. Student would click on the option that they felt answered the question itself. Just some notations, as I indicated very early on in this presentation, we've been doing a lot of work to ensure that we are trying to reduce the amount of scrolling and the best presentation possible for a student. So we've been hard at work at doing that. We know that oftentimes a page break will split up the question from the answers, and sometimes not all the choices are presented on one page. In order to reduce some of that page break piece, we've reduced some of the sizing of the item information, the graphics themselves. However, it's still considered large print. Also, there are some answer options that are presented horizontally. So you'll see those as you go through the assessment itself with the students. All right. But you also still have the ability to, scroll back and forth. You want to make sure that it displays all response options available to student once you've given the item prompt to the student. So that's still a very important piece that you want to make sure that you're paying attention to as you're administering it with a student. You also have the zoom feature, so Control plus or Control minus will zoom in or out that whole screen. We've also heard from many folks in the field that using a Promethean or a smartboard is a really good way to display the assessment for a student and displays those items really well. As I said, some of the actual work that we've been conducting on the back end within the platform itself to with some of the page break pieces is reducing the size of the navigation bar itself that's presented when the item is on screen, and then some of that horizontal display of items, or of horizontal display of response options, rather. Talk a little bit about the writing prompt. Okay. With the writing prompt, the student produces a permanent product in response to a writing prompt. A test administrator would follow the DTA, the scripted step-by-step series of directions. In order to respond to this writing prompt, a student is going to use their typical response mode. Okay, they're going to use picture symbols if that's a typical response mode for them. They would also be able to utilize other types of communication devices that they're familiar with using. Okay. Really, the intent of this is that the student is expressing their writing and information to another person, and that would then allow them to create this written product. There are support materials that are available, such as response cards, information specific to vocabulary lists that are provided as part of the writing prompt itself. In addition, the Level 2 writing prompt provides sentence starters for the student to utilize as they're responding to the writing prompt. The Level 3 writing prompt itself really just provides a template that the student would be completing in creating their writing prompt. As I said, the writing prompt DTA provides those step-by-step directions to guide the student through completion of the writing prompt itself. And really one of the important pieces to know is that the writing prompt is specific to what is considered writing processes. The student utilizing those stimulus materials is going to go through the act of selecting a topic, choosing characters or supporting details, and then going through some drafting steps, utilizing a graphic organizer, and is then walk through some revising and editing steps, and then finally using that student response template to produce a final story or essay. The writing prompt has a couple of different text types that are specific to the different grade spans. So elementary, the type expected is literary. In middle school, we're asking the student to think about explanatory writing style. And then in high school, we get at the argumentative or persuasive style. So with each grade span assessing those different styles, there are also different student response that are being looked for within those different writing styles. So at the elementary level, where we're looking at that literary text, a student is being asked for temporal words and phrases to be utilized in their writing. And provided here, we've indicated a list of some various temporal words that might be, utilized in a student's writing. Okay. Also note on this slide, you've got a bulleted list of student responses that are emphasized in this particular writing prompt within grades 3 through 5. So they'll give you an idea of really what's being looked for within the writing prompt itself. Okay. In middle school, presenting very similar information to you as we did with the elementary, but it's specific to middle school, which is considered grades 6, 7, and 8, and it assesses the explanatory text type. So at this one, we're looking for transition words and phrases. So we've provided a variety of transition words that a student may think about within utilizing their particular writing for explanatory text. In addition, on the right, there is that bulleted list of student responses that are emphasized and being looked for specifically in that written product. This really shows that progression of writing through the middle school. At the high school, the next type that is being assessed is argumentative or persuasive responses. And for here, we're looking at a list of signal words and phrases that a student would utilize in their writing. So there's also the bulleted list of student responses that emphasizes the writing prompts that are the key elements of the writing prompts that are being looked for high school. Citing evidence that is completed once the student responds to the writing prompt itself has to be and submitted within the online platform. And there are 3 ways to submit a student's writing response. A student may type directly into the MSAA system. The TA may transcribe the student's responses into the MSAA system. The student's evidence must be, if a student is completing it outside of the MSAA system, then the student evidence, that response template, must be uploaded into MSAA system via a webcam or a scanner. Okay. Teachers must annotate the student's writing to capture the student's thought so that a scorer may score the writing prompts accurately. Evidence that scorers cannot read or understand in many cases results in a lower score. So please ensure that you want to make sure that you're annotating to make it clear what the student was communicating within their writing itself. Annotations are specifically added when there is inventive spelling, for instance. Also note that in scoring, we are only looking at the student's writing response itself, that response template itself. Any uploaded images of stimulus materials, then that student response template will be disregarded. Again, very, very important, annotating the student's writing. Different instances. Okay. Annotations are important when a student uses inventive spelling, have hard to read penmanship, or when a student is using symbols and it's not clear what the symbols are within that student's writing. You can find more information about annotations for the writing prompts in Appendix A of the TAM. Earlier, what needs to be uploaded to the MSAA system is only the final response template. These do not include any idea cards, drafts, the graph organizer, pictures of student communication boards, devices, any pictures of the students, any of that stuff. We do not need any of that, only the final response template. You can find more information about the uploading process for the writing evidence within the MSAA user guide. As I said before, within the online response for writing evidence, a student may type their responses into the platform itself, or a teacher may scribe the responses from the writing templates into the online platform. Note, students requiring the assistance of a scribe must have this accommodation in their IEP. Okay. To upload the writing evidence, utilize this particular mode when a student is completing the template on paper. And you as the test administrator are going to use the webcam to capture an image of the evidence itself, or use a scanner and then upload that file as an attachment to a writing prompt. Again, please keep in mind the importance of annotating so that responses are understood by an outside reader or scorer. And a reminder, do not upload images of student materials other than that student response template. You also want to make sure that you are uploading the evidence while that applicable item is still on the test screen. Ensures that the item number, test form, student profile, and test administrator information are captured when the test is submitted. Let's look at what that looks like. So the Upload Evidence button will only come up when you're administering those writing prompt specific item. Okay? This is when you want to make sure that you are uploading the response or having the student enter in their responses within the online platform, or as a scribe, you are entering in the student responses. Okay. When you click on this button, you begin the evidence upload process. Pop-up window that provides you with two options to capture evidence. And these two options are either the webcam or the attaching of a scan file. Even if you are using the upload option, you need to type the student responses into the computer. This is an important aspect within online platform that you are doing, even if you are uploading evidence, because the online system will actually not register the item as being completed if you don't also have text entered in for that particular item. So that test item will display as incomplete. So you want to make sure that even if you are uploading evidence, that you're also typing out the student responses within the online platform section of the writing prompt. All right. The online platform will accept the files, and it will actually show you the file names. Okay. They can be viewed by clicking on the file names. You can click the Upload button when you are ready. This will provide you with a confirmation of successful upload, and then you can click on OK. It will then turn you to the Upload Evidence screen, and the files that you've uploaded will now be listed. These files can be viewed, erased, or deleted. The Directions for Test Administrator, or DA, provides specific instructions and exact wording to be used for administration of the test items in ELA and mathematics. As we've talked about already, this document is considered secure. Each TA provides the guidelines for how to present the items to the student and the materials needed for the test. Prior to administering the test administrators should download, print, and review all Section 1 DTAs that will be administered. The DTAs are available within the platform beginning March 5th and will be accessible to a test administrator after the online test administration modules are completed and an 80% has been attained on the final quiz. Test administrators may opt to view the DTAs on another computer during administration, but please remember that these are your materials, so to be given to the test coordinator for shredding after testing, and files must be deleted from all computers after testing is complete. TA should refer to the TAM and the DAs for all directions regarding test administration. Please note each DTA is specific to the form of the test that is assigned to the student. DTAs can download the DTA from the Actions button in the MSAA online system at the link provided here. Make sure for those DTAs you are reading the directions, passages, items, and answer options exactly as written, using a consistent rate of reading and tone of voice as appropriate for the item passage. DTAs also want to be familiar with and must utilize the alternative text as appropriate for each specific item. Alternative text is in italics and appears in brackets. There are two types of alternative text that are provided in the DTA. There is alternative text for students, for all students, and this includes standardized descriptive statements for tables, charts, graphs, timelines, and any math flow. This must be allowed to all students. There is also alternative text for students who are blind or have visual impairments, and this includes descriptive statements for tables, charts, graphs, and any other graphics necessary for appropriate motion items. An answer option that is a graphic with no accompanying text, or a graphic that provides contextual clues for a sighted student. This information would be provided to a student through the alternative text. Please, if the alternative text for students who are blind or have a visual impairment is not read by the computer, the team must make sure that you're reading this text aloud, as indicated in the DTA. Okay. There is a text which generally indicates that the actions specifically for the test administrator. This text is also included as alternative text, and alternative text must be read by a TA to the student. Know that it will be alternative text because it will always be bracketed and does provide directions to the teacher to the directions. And the TA script that is provided, the TA must read aloud to the student, is really as black text within the item itself. Okay. Indicated before, the gray text, italicized, is really a specific action. They must be coming within the item itself. As I just noted, any alternative text for a student provided in brackets, italics, and would be read aloud as necessary. This applies to alternative text for students with visual impairments, as well as alternative text for all students. Specific to mathematics, there is information contained in the DTA whether or not a calculator is allowed on an item, and identified at the beginning of an item. If the TA is reading the item aloud to the student, rather than the online platform read aloud feature being used, then the TA would read aloud the text that is in black. This is considered the script for the day. Any actions the TA should perform are in the gray italics, and this is as appropriate. You can see here of what alternative text looks like for students with visual impairment. It specifically state that with the bracketed text and will be read aloud as necessary for the student. Okay. So that takes us through some overarching information specific to the MSAA itself. I want to get into a little bit of information related to the technology requirements. All right. With the technology requirements, MSAA is working really hard to make sure that we're keeping up with technology requests and changes as we go. So, one important exciting note is that there are no new changes for 2018. So tablets and mobile devices are supported for the test delivery. And you use these devices and the operating systems that are listed on the slide. You can use iPads, Chromebooks, Windows Surface with this assessment, as well as desktop computers, laptops, or other compatible devices. Please remember that you get into those sample items and check the devices that you plan on using before administering the items to the student. Interactive whiteboards such as smartboards or Promethean boards are compatible with the MSAA system, and we received numerous feedback features that these are highly valuable, and we encourage you to use these as a tool for your students. Just remember, please, that this test is a one-to-one assessment, so please need to ensure that if they are using a smartboard or Promethean board, that our students are not exposed to content. There are three major browsers that are supported, and these include Chrome, Firefox, and Internet Explorer. The latest version of each of these browsers is recommended for the test. If you'd like to determine determine the browser that you are running, what it is and its version, simply navigate to the Google site, whatbrowser.org, and this will allow you to see which version you're currently running of the browser that you're utilizing. Okay. You can also utilize the upgrade your browser to the latest version from this page for free as well. So that if you experience problems with the assessment layout and logging back in with a different browser, this may help with the display itself of the platform of the assessment. And very important, Windows does not provide security updates below IE 11, Internet Explorer 11, so usually a version lower than Internet Explorer 11 is a security risk. Delivery is supported both on devices, the devices listed previously, and as I said, on desktop computers with the operating system version that are listed here. So we can use Windows or Mac systems for the online platform. So MSAA has specific supports and features that are a part of the assessment itself. Some are built-in supports within the assessment, and others are accessibility features that are built into the online platform. So built-in supports within the administration of the test itself include things such as the ability to the entire test aloud to a student. Okay. Students may use manipulatives that are appropriate for certain items. There are pictures and graphics supports are provided, and information related to what is relevant, salient, what is being read within that particular item or passage itself. Many of the items include use of models or demonstrations. In mathematics, shapes and smaller numbers, value of numbers are generally utilized within math test Into those built-in supports, there are also specific assessment features within the system. In order to access those assessment features, as I showed before, when you're on your item itself, you have that little gearbox in the lower left-hand corner that you would click on, and it would bring up the various assessment features. This is specific to how you would access those assessment features. The assessment feature will continue to appear for each subsequent item unless it is deselected or if the test is paused. When the testing is resumed in that instance, the assessment features will need to be selected again to turn them on for the next item. You may increase the size of the text and graphics, increase the volume through the computer's browser and operating system. So in order to do the increase or decrease of size of text and graphics, that's where you would use your zoom feature. So that's your control plus or control minus. Okay. Most computers provide this, ability for that magnification or zoom feature. We said before, projection systems and video magnifiers via a closed circuit television system may also be utilized to increase the size. Masking is a feature that is built into the platform that allows a student or to cover answers and to reveal one answer choice at a time simply by using show or hide buttons. They may use masking with paper administration as long as the day does not mask answer choices in a way that cues the correct answer for a student. Contrast is also an assessment feature built in. The TA or the student may change the screen background and or font color based on the needs or preferences of the student by selecting the alternate color theme in the assessment features. Several alternate color theme options for this assessment that can be selected. When choosing this feature, graphics still appear white. These will remain white and not change to the color theme selected. And this is okay. Assessment feature also has a line reader tool. And when the line reader is activated, it draws the student's attention to one or a few eliminated lines at a time. Shade the remaining screen. Student or TA can control the placement of the line reader with the computer's up or down arrow keys. So a magnification assessment feature that allows the user to zoom in and enlarge right 2 lines of text at a time. The read aloud I talked about before being a built-in feature, so TAs may read aloud the item directions, response options, and passages as often as is reasonable to attain a student's response to an item. All text must be read to a student exactly as it's written. They may not paraphrase or vary the speed to emphasize words in ways that hint at correct or incorrect responses. The accommodations that are available in the MSAA test itself are specifically defined in the TAM. Accommodations are changes in the materials or procedures of the assessment that do not alter what is being measured. Please note that accommodations must be documented in the student's IEP and are used routinely during daily instruction. The accommodations that are allowed for the MSAA of technology, paper, scribe and sign language. All accommodations must be documented in each student's IEP. With regard to assistive technology, please remember to have test administrators test out assistive technology devices with the students using those sample items prior to actually administering the test. Further information related to the scribe accommodation, please refer to the TAM Appendix A for the scribe accommodation protocol information. We're going to pause for just a minute to see if there are any specific questions that are needed to be answered. Looks like good there so far. Again, as questions come up, please remember that you are providing them in the chat box so that we can answer them as appropriate. Let's talk a little bit about specific abilities related to before testing, during testing, and after testing. So before administering the test to the students, the TA is required to complete the fix information, the LA information, the accommodations information before test, and the SRC, or student response check. With demographics information, all of that will be completed already within the student's profile area. What you, as the test administrator, need to do is to review that information and make sure that it is accurate. If not, you want to make sure that you are letting your test coordinator know. For the LA or learner characteristic inventory, TA will be answering some various questions related to describing the characteristics of the student who is participating in the test. For the accommodations before test tab, the TA is going to select the accommodations that are documented in the student's IEP. And the SRC tab is where a TA would attempt new test to determine if the student's responses can be observed and respond to the follow-up questions. We'll do each of these specifics in more detail as we go now. So how do you view the student's demographic information? So you're going to go to that Students tab, view the demographic information. Okay. Click on that